I decided, you know what? I think it's going to be worth it to start over, go down a needle size, maybe reevaluate some of my increases. Maybe I don't need quite so many. And just all in all, I'm probably going to be happier with that decision. Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Nitty Natty. Welcome to episode 258 of the Love in Stitches podcast. It is a chilly 18 degrees Fahrenheit here in Tennessee, but as you can see, I've got something new to keep me cozy and warm. Even though I've finished some stuff, I've had to do some backwards progress on another couple of my projects this week, but we'll get into that in just a second. Before we begin, I want to say a big thank you to today's podcast sponsor, Craftsy. Craftsy is an online community where millions of crafters, makers, and DIY enthusiasts find creative inspiration, advance their skills, and learn new ones along the way. Craftsy offers over 2,000 exciting classes in so many fun categories, like knitting and crochet, but also sewing, baking, cooking, and so many more. And they are always adding tons of new classes. I feel like with a new year, my creativity is always peaked, and I'm looking to try out new skills. Some of the classes I've been exploring lately are corner to corner crochet with Mary Beth Temple. This is a crochet technique that I have yet to try, but it seems fascinating, and you can make the coolest pictures with it. I also stumbled into steeking, cutting your crochet on purpose with Brenda K.B. Anderson. I never realized that you can also cut your crochet. I guess it totally makes sense when you really think about it. And I'm going to be exploring tapestry crochet next month, which is a color work technique. So I feel like this is kind of the perfect time to explore those new things. The same teacher also has a class called Fun Agurumi, which is all these adorable food-themed stuffies made from chenille, and she breaks down how to make them step by step, including the finishing techniques. With Craftsy, you can learn from experienced, award-winning instructors, and they include a whole range of classes from beginners to masters of their crafts. Members also get unlimited access to thousands of inspiring classes, tons of exciting projects, and mouth-watering recipes. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description will get a full year of premium membership to Craftsy for only $1.49. That's a huge discount compared to the normal price of $123. Thank you again to Craftsy for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get into the projects. First things first, my Nordlig cardigan is finished. I'm so happy with this project. It came out so great. So we're going to start back at the beginning when I started it. So I started this project on November 6th and I finished it yesterday, which was January 19th. So all in all, it took me about 2.5 months to complete. Okay, let me try to get up here a little bit to just show you this a little bit better. I am just really, really happy with how this came out, with the fit and everything. So it's intended to be an oversized cardigan, nice, really big sleeves. It's semi-cropped, I would say. I'm wearing a super cropped tank top. This is a little bit cropped. My hips are here, so yeah, kind of cropped. And then now that I'm wearing it, it's not coming up in the back as bad as it was before. It also, I don't know if you can see, it looks really cool. The construction was really, really fun. And all in all, I enjoyed this project, working it so much. My buttons turned out so pretty. They blend in so nicely. And I was even able to find some thread in my mom's sewing stash that really matched things nicely. So I didn't have to buy any extra thread, just buttons, yarn, and all of that. And speaking of yarn, I used Ruby and Roses Rustic DK, which is a non-superwash merino. It is so soft, so yummy, so light, and I've already washed this twice. So I did one block before I put on the ribbing, the hems on the bottom, and then I did another one after I was totally finished before I seamed. And both times, it just came out so beautiful. The brioche didn't lose its structure. Sometimes with brioche, because it's such a textured stitch, it will really grow and lose integrity if you use certain yarns, or if your gauge is just really loose, or if you fuss with it too much. But I think the yarn really saved the integrity of the brioche, and so it didn't grow out. It didn't get too big. It blocked a little bit, of course, but it didn't like stretch, which I'm really grateful for. So this colorway is called Rosy Cheeks, and I bought an extra skein. And as you can see, I didn't even need to touch it. So this was my 7th skein. So I did get into 6 skeins, which was the estimate for my size. But even then, I have a little bit left over. I didn't weigh these to see like how much this is, but I would say this is less than a full skein. So I think I definitely needed the 6 skeins. Plus sometimes it's just a matter of like balancing out, you know, the different pieces. Like I don't like to put a bunch of different little scrappy bits into one thing because I feel like it doesn't look as nice. It's definitely not as nice to knit. So yeah, I think 6 skeins is about right. I am already thinking about making a hat with this one and kind of having like a matching situation. I might also be making some other accessories to go with the hat, not necessarily the sweater, but the hat as well. So that's on the back of my mind to use up that extra skein, but I'm glad I had it just in case that I needed it. Okay, I want to share a couple other things about this pattern. All in all, I really enjoyed making it. If you don't like brioche, you will not enjoy this project, but I feel like if you're somebody who wants to explore brioche or improve your brioche, the entire thing, aside from the cuffs and the hems, all brioche. So you're going to get really, really comfortable with it. And I feel like even by the 2nd sleeve, I was feeling like I could do brioche almost as easily as I could do stockinette. Not quite, of course, it's not the same, but it got even more comfortable to me as time went on. And all of the flat parts, so only the sleeves up to here in the round, all of the flat parts, they're only the knit brioche row, so you really don't have to do that much purling. You're just doing like slip 1 yarn over, knit, brioche knit, slip 1 yarn over, brioche knit on both sides of the front pieces and the back and everything for the shoulder. And so again, that made it really easy and really enjoyable to make. Now, that being said, I do have a couple of qualms with the pattern. There were definitely some places that I found the instructions to be a little bit confusing or just like lacking in clarity. I know this could also be me, so just take this with a grain of salt. I've also never knit with a fiber tails pattern before, so this was my first one. I feel like whenever, it's like reading, you know, a new author, it feels a little bit more awkward the first time you work with something that they've written, but then you kind of start to understand, you know, how their patterns work. So take this with a grain of salt. This is just my opinion with the first time working with this designer's patterns. So there were a couple of things that I found a little bit confusing in the pattern itself. And I did add these notes to my Ravelry page just in case anyone else is making this project and wants a little reassurance or a little help. So here are the things that I found to be a little confusing. One is the short rows on the back. I couldn't tell if I was supposed to continue my knit edge stitch that I had leading up to those short rows. It wasn't clear to me in the pattern. I decided I would continue my knit edge stitch, and that did help with my seaming later on. This is probably not going to make sense if you're not working the pattern, but if you are working the pattern, hopefully that helps. The other thing that I found a little confusing and actually that just didn't work out in the pattern was the button band. It wasn't lining up. So basically when you do the button band, you have live stitches in brioche and then you pick up stitches. So when you work those picked up stitches, they need to line up by the time you get to the already established brioche pattern. And when I worked it as the pattern was written, it did not come out that way. I have a friend who recently finished this project, friend through Instagram. So we've been talking about it as we've been working on it. And I asked her, hey, did you also have the same issue with the button band rows, like not lining up or stitches not lining up? And she said she had the same problem. So the way I solved that or resolved it is I just started with an extra knit stitch and ended with an extra knit stitch. Again, not going to make sense if you're not making the pattern, but if you do end up making the pattern and you're struggling with the button band, take a look at my notes in my project page because it will all hopefully work out for you the same that it worked out for me, and the way that it worked out for her, she did the same thing. And then the last thing is the front hems. So those were worked last. They're just like the little ribbing pieces down here. And I found that I did not need to pick up as many stitches as was written in the pattern. So I picked up fewer stitches. Instead of 10, I picked up 6. And then because I picked up 6, I had to change on the button hole side. I had to change that. So I wrote in how I changed that. I feel like there was one more thing. Yeah, I think there was another part in the pattern. Again, this is very pattern specific, but it said you need to work 9 rows and end up on like a right side, but that wasn't right. And so I did 8 rows and ended up on a right side, and that seemed fine. Anyway, those are all very pattern specific things. So if you're working this and you want to take a look at the notes, my notes when you get to each of those things, it could have just been me, except for the button band part. I'm pretty sure that was a pattern thing because at least one other person experienced the same. But even with all of that being said, this is not something, I don't expect every pattern to be like super crystal clear and like hold my hand. So I don't want to put that expectation out there. I just wish there was a couple more like really more detailed clarifying things, and maybe even just a couple more photos would have really helped me. One of the other things I struggled with, I actually haven't woven in my ends yet for the underarm, because as I was seaming this last night, I was trying to figure out how to seam this. So when you're done, you end up with, how can I explain this? You end up with like some stitches here that need to be incorporated into the side seam. And that's not something I've ever done before. The only seaming, when I've ever seamed a sweater before, you seam up this way and then you seam out, you know, along the sleeve. But this time you had these sleeve stitches coming down that had to be incorporated. And I'm not sure I love what I did. I feel like I almost squished them too much. So I might be taking back a little bit. The side seam itself, that worked out great, but getting that in there, I don't know. It was a new skill for me. So I decided to leave it, see how I like it, see if it kind of evens out. And if I don't like it, it's very easy to take back and do again. So there you go. Those are all the things about this pattern. Let me see if I had anything else to say about it. No, I think that's it. All in all, I'm so in love with this. Actually, I wanted to show it to you. I can actually close this. I don't know if I ever will wear it closed, but I can. And I'm pretty proud of myself for the buttons. I didn't enjoy sewing the buttons on, mostly because you kind of, you know, have to get them even. I had to find thread, I had to find a sewing needle, but I do think it came out pretty good. I think I got it pretty even. I'm definitely not a seamstress in any sense, but I actually think it looks cute with the buttons done up. So maybe I will wear a button closed sometimes as more of like a little outfit. I need to get myself a white tank top like this that's not a workout tank top, because now I have this sweater. I also have my salty days eventually when I fix that. That would be great to have just a plain white tank top to wear underneath that's not also an exercise tank top. So I'm going to be on the lookout for that to add to my wardrobe and enhance my knitted items. The next project I want to talk about is my Yorkshire crochet along blanket, but I am actually going to unbutton this because even though it's freezing cold outside, it's like probably 75 in this room, which is why I was wearing a tank top before this, because it is so hot in here. I think the heat indicator must be in another room in the house, and therefore the heat just almost never stops running in this room, which is the bedroom that we sleep in here. Okay, the blanket. I love this thing. So this is the Yorkshire Crochet Along blanket by Mima Makes, and I have added in another row to the blanket. Now, the way I'm holding it now, I'm actually holding it with the length going from side to side. So this is actually the width of it. There's going to be 4 squares across the width, and then there's 6 squares for the length. So it's definitely a lap size blanket. I feel like with getting in this second row this week, you can start to see like the rainbow of colors. The rainbow kind of goes from the top corner and then it zigzags across. So there's a ton of orange, then there's a bunch of green, there's like one yellow square. It leads into blue, which we haven't really gotten much of yet, and then into purple, and finally into pink, which won't be coming in. Actually, I think it will be coming in this week. So that's going really nicely. I did about 1 square per day, which was my plan. And then I blocked my squares for the next row. So as far as yarn goes, I am using Pretty Twisted Yarns 2023 Advent. It was a neon rainbow fade. I've got all my leftovers still labeled and everything in case I want to use this for another project. And then I am still on my first skein of joining yarn, and I've already added in 2 rows. So I think I'm more than 50% of the way through, wouldn't you say? I haven't weighed it yet, but I would say that's probably 30 to 40 grams. So I've already got another skein wound up and ready when I need that. And then I've got 2 more skeins, so 4 in total. But I don't know if I'm gonna need the 3rd and 4th, but I'm gonna save these because these are gonna be really great for all the different Advent projects that I'm hopefully going to be working on this year. I'd like to get through some more of my Advents later on. So that is all going very, very well. But what I want to talk about is this. Actually, hold on. I need to move these. No, actually, I'll just leave that there. Ah! What a mess. Okay, I want to talk about this blocking board because it's pretty cool. I have some things to say about it, but I finally tried out this cool little granny square blocking board this week that my friend Deb from Bliss Yarns is loaning to me. It's her personal board. It's not something that they sell at the yarn shop. Look how cool that is. So basically, there's a little stand. I'm not sure where she got this, to be honest. I have no idea. But it is a square. It's like almost like a pegboard. I guess it is kind of a pegboard. And then it has all these little metal rods. And hers is brand new. And so she's loaned it to me brand new. So one thing that I did, or one thing that I noticed is that these little pegs, when I touch them, this kind of like gray stuff came off of them. I'm guessing it's just from manufacturing. There's just some residue. So I actually wiped all of these down because I didn't want anything to get on my squares. So if you end up finding one of these, check and make sure nothing is coming off of them, clean them off before you use them. And then they go into the little pegs, and then you can simply just slide your granny squares on them. So a couple of people asked me, because I shared that I was borrowing this board from my friend Deb, but then for the first 12 squares, I didn't actually use it because I didn't think that it was working. I couldn't get the pegs to actually go into the holes, and because it's not mine, I didn't want to force it or mess with it or anything because I didn't want to break it. So when I finally had the chance this week to go into Bliss Yarns, I brought this with me, and Deb and I looked at it, and she just added a little extra force and was able to get those pegs in there just fine. So you really do kind of have to force it, and it works. So that's why I wasn't using it before, because I thought it didn't work. And then now why I'm using it, because I figured out I just needed to add more force. So this is pretty cool. I really like this concept, but I have a couple of things that I would say I'm either doing it wrong or there needs to be something else to this, because here's what happened when I first put all these on here. They all just stack right on top of each other. And if they're all stacked on top of each other and wet, they are not going to dry. I mean, maybe eventually, but you don't want something sitting around wet. And the whole purpose of me blocking these is so that they can dry, so that I can make them into a blanket. So then I got this idea to cut up a straw and put it in between like the different layers. But you can see it's not in between every layer because I only could find one plastic straw in the house, and it didn't seem like a good use of resources or money or time to go buy more plastic straws and just have more waste just to cut them up and put them on here. Maybe if I did own this, I would find a better solution. Like I kind of wish I had, you know, those foam in stoppers or like cocoa knits. That would be perfect if you just poked a hole all the way through them, because then it would just provide like spacers so that these would stay spaced out and they could actually get dry. The straws did a pretty good job though, but I was still like, they were still smushed on top of each other. That's when I realized that the stand was maybe not just for storage, but also for blocking. So once I actually put it on the stand, it's kind of at like a, I don't know, not quite a 45-degree angle. I was able to spread them out a little bit more, but they were still kind of sinking on each other. So if anyone has something like this, how do you block your squares? There's only room for one square. If you had smaller squares, of course, you could fit more than one on the board, but I have 7-inch squares. So there's only room for one, like, space wise. So they have to be stacked in order to block them. And I feel like it would be silly to block one at a time. What would be the point? I would just get my little foam puzzle pieces like I was doing before and pin them out on there. So I feel like I'm missing something. Am I missing something? Please let me know. These are actually all dry now. I did spin them out in my new spin dryer before putting them on here. So they actually dried, let's see, I probably did this around noon yesterday. They were dry by like 8 o'clock. So it didn't take too long for them to dry once I kind of got this figured out. I do think this is a really cool concept, but I don't know if it's like time saving enough for me to buy my own yet. Maybe. So I'm really grateful to my friend Deb for loaning this to me so that I can try it out for myself and see what I think. And again, I would love all the tips on it. If you have one of these, tell me what I'm doing wrong, if there's anything I can do to improve this and make it work even better. The last project I've been working on this week are my Beachcomber Flares. And I have a lot to say about these as well. So these have moved into my priority project now that my Nordlig cardigan is done, although I just finished Nordlig yesterday. So for the last month or so, I've been working on, well, maybe not a month. I think I started these on December 29th. So like the last 3 weeks, I've been working on both of these projects, doing a little bit on this every day and trying to finish this. So now that this is done, I'm not casting on any more projects right now. That may not be true. Actually, I might be casting on something later this week, but I'm trying not to cast on anything else and just make a lot of progress on these. So let's talk about them. I made it to the leg split. So these are a pair of pants. They're going to be flare pants. They're called the Beachcomber Flares by the Little Wolf Knit. I've done a lot of prep on getting these to be a really good fit. I took a lot of measurements. I measured myself. I measured some flare pants that I have that I like the fit of. I knit a swatch. I measured the swatch. I blocked the swatch. I did all of the things. But I still want to check the fit throughout, especially because I added in some extra increasing to make up for the difference between my waist and hips, because my waist measured like basically the second size, but my hips measured the third size. So to make up for that, I did extra increases to transition. This worked really well for me last year or two, no, must have been 2 or 3 years ago when I made a dress also by the Little Wolf Knits, and it just came out so beautifully. So I thought, well, that will work the same for this. So I got to the point where I was thinking, hey, I'm ready to do the leg split. I blocked this, I spun it out in my spin dryer, I laid it flat to dry, and then I tried it on. Actually, I have a video of me trying on this project before I blocked it, and then granted, I am trying it on over leggings. If I tried it on without leggings, it would be inappropriate. I couldn't share it. But I think you can already kind of tell that things are looking a little big. They're not really looking quite right. They're also looking a little see-through. Anyway, I went ahead and blocked it because I had already put everything on tubing. I blocked it. I have another picture of it laying flat to dry. You can see how extreme the difference is between the waist, where this part of it is all straight, the part that folds down. And then I have, let me think, I think I did 3 extra sets of increases, which is about 12 stitches. So probably about 2 inches. I added about 2 inches from what the pattern, like a straight size would actually be. Or I don't know if straight size is the right word, but like what you would go to keep the same size in the waist and the hips. So it looks pretty extreme, right? But actually it wasn't so bad as far as a continuation for my body type. Like it's pretty spot on to how my body is actually shaped. But overall, everything was just too big. So after I blocked it, I did try it on properly with not over leggings, on my own. And I just determined that things were just looking too big. So I kind of was thinking, what happened? Like I did all this measuring, I did all this figuring out, like I definitely didn't like all of a sudden lose a bunch of weight. So like that doesn't make sense. So I decided, you know what? Let me measure my gauge. And I measured my gauge on this piece, and I realized my gauge grew so much. It grew from 24 stitches in 4 inches to about 21 and a half stitches in 4 inches. So somehow between swatching and actually making a finished piece, things got a lot bigger. Maybe I got a little looser, a little more relaxed, also just having more fabric, more accurate measurements. Things kind of got stretched out when I wore it, which is going to happen when I wear it. So I decided, you know what? I think it's going to be worth it to start over, go down a needle size, maybe reevaluate some of my increases. Maybe I don't need quite so many. And just all in all, I'm probably going to be happier with that decision. I mean, I haven't gotten too far into it. I have the whole leg, all of the legs to do. So I was happy to catch this now. So that's what I have done. I've started over. I've gone down from a size 4 needle, which is already one down from the pattern, to a size 3 needle. And I'm already happier with the fabric. This is, of course, unblocked, but it's already looking more like less see-through. So I am happier with it already. I'm doing the same numbers. Oh, come back. I'm doing the same numbers right now, but I am toying with the idea of not doing quite as many increases when I get to that point. So I'm going to have to figure that out. I'll probably do some more trying on and seeing and everything. Right now, I'm just keeping this because I want to have it as kind of a comparison. I have enough balls of yarn that I could start this with, or I already cut this, I guess. So I just started this with the yarn I already had wound, and I just wanted to kind of see what would happen, like what I'm going to be happier with. I still have the chance to go back to this if I change my mind, or if this ends up being a better fit and this ends up being too small. So we'll have to see. Now, the other thing I'm doing that's different is I did helical knitting on all of this. So I have 4 skeins of yarn in total. I'm probably just going to need 3, but I wanted to have an extra just in case. So I decided to do helical knitting, which is alternating every other row and doing a slip stitch technique so that you don't have that like part right at the beginning of your round where you're switching yarns. It worked really, really nicely, but it did slow me down a little bit because obviously I'm having to, pay attention in every round for something to happen. Whereas when I have one ball of yarn, I can just go, 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 becomes a much more portable project. But I thought that would be good because of my 4 skeins, they're all slightly different and I want to be able to blend them together. Well, I decided when I started the second one that I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to work one ball of yarn at a time, except when I'm transitioning to another ball of yarn. I am going to alternate for maybe 10 rows or so and do helical knitting or some kind of technique to alternate. And that way I can blend my yarns into each other without having to have 2 balls of yarn the entire time I'm working on this. So I thought it'd be interesting to kind of see how that looks different. So this is, the one with the 2, the alternating. And you can see there's still going to be pooling. A lot of times when you alternate yarns, it just helps blend them together. It doesn't necessarily eliminate pooling because each skein is still going to behave in the same pattern. So I was like, I feel like it's just extending and enunciating the pooling. I don't think it looks bad, but it's just making, like, for example, see this kind of like orangey yellow section? It just made it longer because I have 2 skeins of yarn following that same pattern. So then I haven't gotten as far in this one, but overall, it looks quite different. I feel like there's a lot more white space. I feel like the colors are actually blending themselves out, like spreading themselves out more. There's like more repetition. I also am on a smaller needle, so my gauge is slightly different. I just think it's interesting that they can be pretty different. And I think I'm looking at this so closely, so it might not be as easy to tell on camera. I'm gonna see if I can hold this up. Okay, so that compared to this. See, there's just not as big, the sections with the accent colors are just not as large. Like there's nowhere in here where there's big chunks of yellow. And to be fair, that could be coming from the other ball of yarn. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. I'm like, well, if I'm starting it over, I might as well do something different and learn something about this. So I don't think it looks bad or anything. It's also, again, a different gauge. So up here where I have a smaller stitch count, there's more like that diagonal kind of pooling. Whereas down here where I have a larger stitch count, things are spread out more. So we'll just have to see. I thought that would be fun just to kind of get, more experience. out of a project that I'm already doing. So my plan is to work on this project as much as possible. I want to fly through all of this so I can get to that point again where I'm splitting for the legs. I am ready to move on to a new point in this pattern. So, redoing the stuff I've already done, it's just a matter of breezing on through it. And since this is my only project, aside from doing 1 square a day on my blanket, I feel really good that next week I will hopefully have a pair of pants that are ready to move on to the leg. I have a little bit of Yarny news to share, and then I have some skeins of yarn that I thought we would open up together. So the first thing is that there is another tour coming your way on Saturday. This time we are going to a dye studio in New Jersey, Chelsea Yarns. We're going to get to talk to Christina and her husband Tad. We're going to see the dye studio. We're going to see Christina's like dye room. She also has she's also into some other crafts. She's into, what's the right word for it? Like the oh, I don't even know how to describe this. Basically, she has this whole desk and space where she just makes these beautiful notebooks. She does her color inspiration. She does planning this way. This was a really cool thing to see because I hadn't seen that side of her before, having watched some of her YouTube videos and just followed her Instagram, followed her yarn. I didn't know that about her, so that was really cool to find out. So that's coming this Saturday. It is going to premiere at 12 p.m. Eastern time if you want to join me live. We have a live chat, which is really fun, but then it will just be up on the channel after that as usual. The other most important thing that is coming up, Sock Week 2025 sponsor applications. That application is going to open on Friday, February 7th. It will be open for 2 weeks. Then I will be selecting sponsors, contacting everyone, letting you know, and then we will get into planning for Sock Week. I have a meeting this week with an artist who is going to be making our logo for this year. I'm really excited for that. It's crazy that things are already in motion for Sock Week, even though the actual event is not happening until July. So after we get through the sponsor stuff, I will be probably a little quiet about Sock Week for a bit, and then we will ramp back up in May because our products will be coming out. So excited for Sock Week. It is so much fun. Okay, let's open some yarn, shall we? Hold on, I need my notes here. So the wonderful ladies of Yarny in New Jersey, it's a wonderful yarn store. I think it's our very first yarn store tour ever. This was back in 2021 when Haley, the daughter of one of the owners of Yarny, emailed me and said, "Hey, we noticed that you moved to New York. I watch your YouTube channel. Would you like to come take a tour of Yarny or like film a tour?" I don't even remember how it exactly happened, but we had never done anything like that before. So we went and toured Yarny way before the whole 50 states thing. We made a video, we interviewed 3 women that own Yarny. It was a great time. And since then we've had a relationship where I don't get to go to Yarny very often, but when I see Kathleen at festivals, we say hi. I have Amanda is in the Love and Stitches membership. I've seen Jen a couple of times. It's just been, I don't know, it's cool to have like that kind of relationship with a yarn store, and they're just lovely people. We also saw them all at Rhinebeck last year. That's right. So anyway, they emailed me and said, "Hey, we have a couple of exclusive yarns that are like Yarny themed yarns. You know how I love a yarn store exclusive." And they wanted to know if I would like a couple of skeins to maybe add to my travel blanket. And I said, well, yeah, I cannot resist. So what we're going to open up here is one skein from La Bien Amie. It is called Springtime at Yarny. And then the other one is from a New Jersey dyer, even better because it's super local, Color Wheel Yarns, called Autumn at Yarny. So this one has 3 mini skeins inspired by each of the owners. So I didn't want to open it up before the podcast because I just wanted to open and see what it looked like. So let's do that now. Okay, this is the Springtime at Yarny from La Bien Amie. How pretty is that? Gray and cream, and then it's got all these fun colors in it: orange, blue, purple, a little bit of pink. You can see right there. That is so pretty. I love that. That's gonna make, I mean, I'm gonna use it for my blanket, but I have so much left over. I only need 20 grams for my blanket. So that's gonna make a really pretty accessory, maybe socks or something. I really like that one. But this one, this is the Color Wheel Yarns one, the Autumn at Yarnia, and it has 3 mini skeins. This is, yeah, Fall at Yarnia. And look at the main skein here. It's got so many pretty colors in it. Pretty much a lot of the same colors. It's interesting because it's also got orange and blue and pink, but this one also has some green in it, a little more purple to it, a little more orange to it. And then, let me see, and we get away from that light, more of like a tan base. Isn't it interesting how you can take a lot of the same colors and make 2 totally different but equally beautiful yarns? And then look at the 3 mini skeins. I don't know who's who. I really don't. Like, if I had to guess, maybe this is Kathleen and this is Jen and this is Amanda. Okay, I gotta ask them because I really want to know. But thank you so much to Yarnia for sending these to me. These are available on their website. If you want to go do some shopping yourself, I will link Yarnia's website down below. I have a couple quick highlights for the past week. We honestly haven't done all that much, not really getting out of the house much. We didn't really have a lot of plans, but we did get up to a few fun things. So the first thing is we went to a Nashville Predators hockey game. Kent loves, my husband loves hockey, and my brother also loves hockey. He's a Predators fan. So we decided to go to the game where they were playing the Vegas Golden Knights because that's a team that Kent likes. It's not his favorite team, but he really likes them. And the Predators won, which was awesome. It was a really good game, like fun all the way through, lots of scoring, lots of interest. I worked on my Nordlig cardigan while we were there, and this is the first time I think I've brought a project that big to a hockey game. The Bridgestone Arena allows bags up to like 12 by 16. You can have a clear bag, which is what I did. I find that's a lot easier to get through security. So that allowed me to bring a larger project. A lot of the stadiums and arenas I've been to lately have been no bag policies. So I usually bring a smaller project that I can fit in my hands. But I actually really enjoyed having a larger project. It kept me really warm because it was sitting on my lap. It kind of felt like a blanket. I had most of it already done. I was just working on maybe the back, I think. So that was great. And also, wooden needles in cold places is so much more comfortable than metal needles. I used to always bring socks or cozies or other small things, and sometimes I still do, but they get so cold in a cold hockey arena. So having a wooden needle made it so that I could knit throughout pretty much the entire game, which was really nice. Also, I want to note that we were up really high, so there is not a danger of us, me getting hit with a hockey puck if I wasn't paying attention, which I am paying attention when I'm knitting anyway. So all good, just a cautionary tale to make sure you pay attention at sporting events so that you're not looking away and, get hurt. That would be terrible. The other thing that we did this week is we went to the movies and we saw Mufasa. I had no expectations for this Lion King movie, and it was actually really good. It was intense though, like a lot of drama and things happening with it being like a live action. Obviously the animals are not real, but it felt more real, and so it felt really intense. All the fighting, all the different things that were happening, it was kind of scary. Like I don't know if I would have liked it as a child because it made me feel really intense during that movie. Anyway, it was kind of the motivation that I needed to restart my pants. We just saw this on Saturday, and I wanted to have a project to work on at the movies. My Nordlig cardigan was in no such place. Actually, I think it was finished and drying. I could not bring my granny squares because one, can't crochet without looking, and also I could definitely not assemble them in a movie theater. That would just be distracting and not appropriate. So therefore, I needed an easy project, and it pushed me to cast on my pants again. I had at least like 10 rows of really easy knitting to do during the movie, and I got all of those done during the movie, then just had to set it aside to pick back up later. Also this week, I ordered my favorite cookies from New York, Levain Bakery. They had a free shipping sale, and I decided I wanted some. So we ordered a bunch of cookies. They had this package called like the Winter Dark Days, and it's all their chocolate batter cookies. So Kent really likes the black and white ones, so he got those. And then I wanted to try their new one, which is a coffee toffee. And it was so good. We also got my favorite chocolate peanut butter. We're almost through them and we just got them on Friday, like 3 days ago. So yeah, they were totally, totally worth it. And then the other thing is I made it to knit night this week, which was really nice. I got to get out and actually see people and stitch with them. I don't think I had been since before Christmas. It feels like every Thursday something was coming up. Last week it was that we had a winter storm coming in. The week before that, one of the football games got moved. Anyway, just always something going on. So it was nice to get in and actually go to stitch night. Now, we really haven't been doing much, as I said. This weekend, though, we did stay in. We had nowhere to go and we got a lot of cleaning done. So I am slowly getting to the point where I am just about ready to start working on organizing my yarn. That is going to be coming up very, very soon, hopefully later this week or early next week. I'm very eager to do it, but I need to get the spot where I'm going to put that yarn cleared off first before I feel like I can go through anything. Otherwise, I would just be going through everything and then putting it back into bags in an unorganized way, and that just doesn't seem reasonable. So I'm waiting until I have a space to do that. So that is coming very, very soon. That is everything I have for today's episode. If you haven't already, go check out the tour that we posted just this past week at Cleo's Yarn Shop in New York City. It's in Brooklyn. It's a really cool shop. They have a cafe inside. They have all these amazing tables. And I was just looking at their Instagram and they must have had 50 people in there last night, all working on projects. It's a super cool place and it was so fun to visit and to tour. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!